Wednesday, May 14th. It is 6:50 PM, and this is Westchester Smart Growth Committee. And I'm Nicole Shimoni, the chair, and I'm here with Lisa Dorsey and Bernie Flynn. And the meeting's called to order. Announcements I have here. A public hearing will be held on May 22nd, 2025 at 6:30 PM to add a definition to Chapter 97, Borough Historic Architect, and to require review by the same for preliminary subdivision and land development plans in the HO 60 and HO 75 overlay zoning districts. So historic overlay districts. Any comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. We will start with the director's report.
Hello, is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. I'll be semi-brief just because we have, looks like a few presentations here tonight. We are in the search for a director. So that job has been posted. I know Sean's done a really great job. I think it's posted on several ancillary websites, but it is on the borough's LinkedIn page. So please share it everywhere. I'm very tired and I would really love somebody in here. We are working on finishing up, closing out this year's rental license recon because the new system is about to start. Wendy and I are working on sending out a much cleaner letter this year that's not just an invoice, that explains how to use the portal, how to connect your account to the portal. And I'm thinking we might even do an open house for landlords to just come in, work through portal issues with them, and just kind of talk to them about the permitting process and the rental license process at once. Zoning Hearing Board met, had 3 properties. One was an appeal for a student home, but that was withdrawn because there's a settlement. 236 West Gay Street was granted a special exception for a short-term rental with a maximum occupancy of 4 people. I believe we're up to, I think we have a new short-term rental application bringing us up to 11 total. Right. Okay. And then 143 East Marshall Street, they were granted the relief on zoning. That was what we had discussed last month with the powder room on the corner of Marshall and Matlack. Subdivision and land development, there was nothing new submitted, but the master plan has been submitted to the borough for comment, which is on the agenda as well. And that's going to Planning Commission along with there's a lot line change and the final, I think it's the final land development for Axel properties on West Washington Street, the 210 to 214. So those will be on Planning Commission, which Bill has set up recording for. So we can at least review those later, which is very cool. HARB met in April and has submitted their recommendation. I believe it was only one, and that was for the seafood kitchen. And on the voting session next Thursday, because we are meeting Wednesday, Thursday next week, Thomas Doherty will be presenting his presentation of traditional patterns of building homes in Westchester, and Jim Cherry will be giving the annual report for the Planning Commission.
Very excited for that.
I think it's a really good presentation, so I agree. Code enforcement officers have been out working. They've even come in a few weekends to check out the patios to see if there's any cafes that need assistance with getting their cafe permits. So we are trying to do this in a customer service based way and not, go out and shut people down. So I think for the most part, we're getting good compliance. A lot of people were unaware that they need a cafe permit. So we're working through that. They've also been split through the borough. So they have specific enforcement routes now when they are not doing rental license inspections. We're getting a lot of feedback from people that might have appreciated how lenient we were before and are not so appreciative of how not lenient we are. But, we are trying to be fair. We do have a dispute process, just like a parking ticket. I'm trying to stay on top of those. So, and we are mindful of some of the fines increase incrementally after so many tickets. And people have said, I'm new, or this hasn't happened in 3 years. So we are working through those. So you can see, you can see the code enforcement tickets have increased. In March, there were 91. In April, there were 124. So we're working, and we're also working through putting that in SmartGov so we can really pay attention to the citation tracker, which Sean has created, which I will tell you was not fully updated this month. So I will have updated numbers next month because they wrote 124 tickets. A lot of those actually did go into citation. If they're not paid within if they're not abated within 24 hours or paid within 7 days, they automatically are issued a citation. And with 124, there were a lot of citations. But I will say that Corday and Sunwell have been trying to contact people to let them know the process and give them a heads up to pay it before we cite them. Rental licenses, we had 129 rental inspections, and then it says 5 initial. I think we looked in the system and I don't think there were actually many new rental permits. I think a couple of those were actually, they had accidentally created a new permit in the portal. So we're not increasing by 5 every month. The sum of points has not changed as of right now. I think we did go to court for one property. It was a 1-point trash ticket. We did lose that case. So that property will not be receiving that point. They do still have a 3-point, possible 3-point citation hearing. I think it's May 24th. Does that sound right? 18th. Oh, soon. Okay. And what? Oh, so it's tomorrow. Okay. Okay. I don't know what day it is anymore. And then you can just see, I don't want to go bore you with all that, building permits, but there were 164 inspections this month and there were several permits received and issued. Many code enforcement cases there were requests, cases open, there were 15, 55 were closed, and I did task the code enforcement officers to clear out the backlog. We did clear out, there were some from when we when we moved the system over and migrated it, there were some from 2020 and 2021. We've just closed all those, Nick closed those automatically, but the officers have been notified they need to close the backlog by the end of the month. So we have a clean, open shut system. That's it.
I have two questions.
Sure.
We haven't talked about in quite a few years now, the straw and plastic bag requirements. I don't know really I would assume it goes under building and housing.
Yes.
Do you think maybe we should step into that as we're going into the summer season?
Yeah.
And just do a walk around and see how they're complying with the ordinance.
I think that would be great. I know Will and I have talked about maybe creating a few, like some literature also. Maybe we can work with BID as well. But yeah, I think now would be a good time to kind of partner on reminding everyone about that, and getting them back on board. Because I know Will did mention that as well.
And we've all talked about, and Mr. Metcher, we've all talked about the 44 West land development situation with the piece of art that should have been installed 2 years ago. But now that we've seen, in 2022, it should have been in. But now that we've actually seen the piece of art, I can understand why Mr. Khan has a concern with that piece of art being put in the plaza, the courtyard. I can see, I would rather have a big turtle in there so the kids can slide up and down the turtle. But that piece of art doesn't fit in that courtyard with the amount of kids that are in there.
Yeah.
So
I
I can
did
understand
look
why.
large.
How long have you been around here, Bernie? Did you ever used to go to Exton Square Mall many years ago?
Yeah.
Do
yeah.
you remember the with the
Yes.
the things that the kids all crossed
slid
over?
down,
We would
yeah.
get some of those.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's something, yeah, but it's, I can understand now. I
Sharp.
mean, Eli should have told us why he didn't do it, but now I look at the piece of art because I never saw it.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's a lovely piece of art,
Yeah.
but it definitely
Not
has a lot
there.
of sharp edges
Not
and
there.
things.
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
and Mr. Betcher's going to follow up on that and see what we can do with, getting maybe a dinosaur
A
or
dinosaur?
turtle, or something in there. The kids can slide around. Yeah. So thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? comments?
I think one thing I heard at the planning commission meeting is the state has updated their from 2018 to the 2020
2021,
21.
the building codes?
Yes, yes.
Yes, and that starts July. I have now forgotten the date, like July. There's a day in July where that starts, and we do have the books here. They're ready to go as well. And I don't think they're huge changes, but yes, we'll be up to the 2021.
Yeah, we're only a couple of years behind now. That's good. Yay,
Are there
PA.
cliff notes?
I would have to ask Paul. I'm not really sure. I would say probably not because they really like to sell you those books. So
Okay, and any questions, comments from those in attendance here? Okay, thank you. We're good? Yeah, thank you. All right, item B, we are going to table. Safe Harbor is actually receiving an award from Chick-fil-A tonight. So yeah, for their service. As you know, Chick-fil-A is very into service for the community, and so Safe Harbor is receiving an award. So we will put them on for next month to do a presentation on what they've been up to and some things that they're looking to do in the future. With that, we have a presentation of responsible outdoor lighting, dark skies. We've got Timothy Lawler here.
Thanks for having me. And apologies for the past. I was supposed to be here, I guess, some time ago, and I I didn't realize it. So apologies for that. I wanted to talk about responsible lighting in the context of sort of a lot of the construction that's going to be kind of popping up around Westchester, particularly on my side of the southeast quadrant over there. I know of at least two places where they'll be building apartments of some variety, and maybe, I guess, a warehouse over at the old YS property. So I'm going to talk a little bit about lighting. And it's just kind of an issue that I'm not sure everybody has in the forefront of their thoughts. And I'm going to also share an ordinance from a neighboring town that's really excellent in case Westchester wanted to do any updating of their ordinances for nighttime lighting. So this is who I am. I'm on the board of the Westchester Green Team. I also teach over at Penn State Brandywine. The Green Team's probably best known for its work with the Porch Fest. So if you haven't heard of them, that's where you would have heard of them. So this is just some of the impacts of bad lighting. Of course, faded starry skies. You don't get much traction arguing that. I'm an astronomer, so I care about it, but nobody else really seems to care. But there are other things like wildlife impacts that impacts insects and wildlife. Bad lighting can actually make security worse, and I'll show you a picture of how that happened in a few slides down the lane here. There's actually human health impacts with the new lights. So LEDs, these new LEDs are incredible energy savings, but they come with unintended consequences. And one of those is that they're not great for human health because of the sort of blue spike of light. I'll explain that really quickly later. It's a waste of energy if you're not pointing it right. If it's kind of pointing in your neighbor's window or up in the sky, then it's just wasting money. So the solutions are very simple. Westchester is probably somewhere between 5 and 7, depending on where you are in the borough. Where I am, it's probably 7 down in the southeast quadrant. We had a graduate student from Westchester work with us last year and looked at the satellite data, the NASA VIIRS satellite data over Westchester. And you can see there over the southeast, that's indicating that it's most of the worst illumination being recorded by the satellites comes from the southeast. And you can kind of tell that's what that sort of dark spot is in the bottom right. It also, by the way, the new white LEDs are also can disrupt tree growth and cycles of trees. And we have a lot of trees in Westchester, so I presume that's something that is of consequence. This, by the way, is just the percent of illuminance recorded by the satellites by quadrant. You can see the southeast takes up most of it. I'm guessing that southwest probably includes the university, so it may not be as much as it looks. This is sort of an adjacent issue. I'm just going to skip by this, but You can see the southeast quadrant also has very few trees compared to everyone else. 7.6% compared to about 15% for some other areas. There's some of the issues with the new LED lights in the trees. You can see the trees are kind of holding on to their leaves longer than they should, and they bud sooner than they should, and it could damage trees. It's also bad for fireflies and nocturnal wildlife. By the way, you probably know over by Everhart Park, Carolyn Comita worked to get what we would call good lighting put on the street, which is better for insects, propagation and pollinators and fireflies especially. So there's a good example if you wanted to see a good example of good light. This, by the way, is the showing the blue light spike. So one of the keys for LEDs are great, but using ones that are more sort of more amber to orange colored rather than bright white. The bright white ones have the highest spike of blue light and they cause the most trouble. They're also why the sky glow is so bad, because our atmosphere scatters blue light. So it's with all this extra blue light, the sky glow has gotten worse more quickly than we anticipated 20 years ago before we had LEDs. I'm going to skip by a lot of this, but this is the impacts on human health. Basically, blue light suppresses melatonin. Melatonin is something we need to get into a deep sleep, and it does a lot of things like cleans off your brain at night from toxins, things like that. So it's been connected to all kinds of diseases as well. The glare is the part that could make things less safe. By the way, that's outside my front window. That's the Chester County Housing Authority. I live over on East Bernard Street in sort of those new condo areas. And I mean, that's, it's low income housing. And so you could be pretty assured that they're not putting in blackout curtains over there, right? And so this blue light is an unhealthy source for humans. That's from inside. That's looking down from my third floor into the second floor. And so this is sort of how you could imagine glare could make things less safe. So there's a light that's just pointed badly, right? If it was pointing down, you could see where you're walking, but instead it's pointing in your eyes. And if you cover it up, you could see there could be a would-be perpetrator there. So there's sort of a quick example of good light, bad light. The bad light on the left is just the street lights are creating too much glare. And then on the right, they're kind of just pointed down to the sidewalks where you need to have light. These are the simple solutions, right? So you might recognize some of these from around the borough. The sort of globes really waste probably about 30 or 40% of the energy is just kind of going into the sky. The best would be sort of the second from the left, and even better is if there were timers, but I know that's sort of if I had my druthers. But fully shielded lights and lower temperature, more orange lights are kind of the solution. That's how simple it really is. And this is sort of the summary. Some of these towns are ones that have really good ordinances. I was sort of trying to compile a lot of good ordinances, but then I found Phoenixville's, and I know that I don't want to feel too competitive with Phoenixville because I know Westchester's a better town, but they have a really excellent dark sky ordinance. It's extremely rigorous and considers the height of lights in certain places and color temperature and things like that. So that's about all I have for now. I think that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. I know Bernie has talked about how we do have items in our ordinances and on our saldo and what have you in order to support better lighting for the community. Have you looked at those? Like when you look at what we have, I mean, what opportunities do you see versus what we have?
I think I think the ordinance is good. It's terse. And I think that so the new issue are these really bright white LEDs, right? So those didn't exist probably when the ordinance was made, my guess is, or at least they weren't prevalent. So using light that is just a warmer color, and it doesn't mean it has to be more dim, right? It could still be bright, and it can still have a good color index. It's just that it wouldn't be this sort of bright white with the blue band that kind of, it sort of inhibits insects from, coming up and propagating. It's bad for wildlife. I guess we have some wildlife around Westchester probably. And it's not great for humans, right? It suppresses melatonin in humans and any mammals, in which we are.
I like throwing stones sometimes. The county is the biggest offender, doing with the lighting that they do. Chester County, right outside your house is a prime example of over illuminating. So if you come from Downingtown, Downingtown Pike into the borough, Westchester looks like a house that's on fire because it's so illuminated. If you want to see illumination, which is actually causing it, it's the parking garage right on Market Street. The back side of the parking garage illuminates all the way down to Bernard Street because on the rear side. So the county's not going to change anything. They're not going to change your lighting or the parking lot lighting. But if you look at a lot of the new things that we're doing in the borough, we are adopting the Dark Sky Initiative.
Great.
And I just sent Carolyn Committa a Mills Brothers song, a little lightning bug song. So hopefully she'll be happy. Yeah. We're trying to do our best for the new construction, but the county has illuminated the borough. So it just glows in the dark.
Right.
I mean, it's,
Right.
you used to be able to see Chester County Hospital when you're coming down Downingtown Pike. Now all you see with the new lighting they have, you just see the red light on top of the helipad. But the top of the city is still illuminating by the parking garages.
We're
So
going to be meeting with some of the people in the county in the end of early June, I think. So I thank you for that. I didn't realize that they were the,
well, on your way home, drive down West Minor Street and pull into Lot 9 where the big parking garage is. You can't miss it. And you'll think you're at Citizens Bank Park. That's how bright it is.
yeah.
No, it's like you're playing a ball game. You could actually play in the parking lot with no extra lighting. So talk to the county. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, yeah, Sean?
I'm familiar, I've come across these kinds of standards in subdivision land development ordinances when we're doing new projects, especially for outdoor lighting conditions. Think of like a parking lot or wall pack lightings on a new building. Should we be looking at our building code too when we're going through permits? And do you have some help or guidance on, if the answer is yes, on how to do that?
Using the 5 principles, so there's these five principles of dark sky lighting. If they were to adhere just to those, then that would solve the problem, right? Just basically point it down, use warmer lighting, shield it, and don't let the glare show off of the property.
Thinking about like a homeowner comes in and wants to build a new deck on their property, and
Oh, yeah.
we review the deck and then we look at the lighting and we approve everything, but shouldn't we also be making sure that it's low color temperature and fully shielded?
Yeah, fully shielded and not sort of going on to neighbors' properties would be ideal, right? I mean, when I talk to residents about this, they almost always have sort of anecdotal story about someone whose light is shining into their window or,
I guess I don't know the building code or electric code well enough to know if that's already requiring it or not.
yeah. I mean, I spoke to, I think somebody who is no longer with the borough, I spoke to somebody about those lights across the street, but you said that they're actually owned by the county. So that's probably why maybe I didn't get much traction. Yeah, so I've been working on those for 2 years.
Their office is at the Rayburn Building, right on Bernard and Church, right? Church.
Bernard Church,
Yeah, they're right there. And
South End Navy and
yeah, I mean,
chat with them.
that's the housing division of it. That's a Chester County Housing right there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if there were some rules about lighting throughout the borough, that would be ideal. And they're really simple. It's just those five principles.
Yeah, and I even think, Sean, I don't know if how we buy lights for replacement, if we look at the color that we're buying, I mean, we're not going to go out and replace all our lights, but potentially when we stock up, as lights need to be replaced, maybe we look into what ones we're buying, and is there any way that we can buy ones that are a little bit more in line with the,
Yeah.
We do,
The
yeah,
ones that
yeah.
are down at Everhart Park are pretty good. They're probably 2,200 or something like that. And they point straight down, so there's really no upward light. But yeah, if they were replaced over time, and they can't be.
Each one of those Cobra heads costs at Everhart Park, they cost $800 each. So we just spent, I can't remember exactly, $200,000, $300,000 replacing all the lights in the borough. And we just recently did it within the last 3 years. So, but we do, because we spent extra money, we can actually turn down the intensity of every light in the borough individually. Because when we were trying to figure out what to do at Everhart Park, we kept trying to turn down the intensity to almost off. And then it just wasn't good enough. Okay. So that's when we switched to the new Cobra heads. But glare, we actually had a resident leave, and she was an artist. She used to live on Wayne and Market Street. And when we changed the Cobra lights, we went down as low as we could. She told us she couldn't see the stars anymore. So she actually moved to Unionville, and she was a very, very good resident, a good neighbor. But we can, by using an iPad, lower every streetlight individually. So if you see things that aren't right, come tell us.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can lower them. It takes 2 days, which doesn't register with me why it takes 2 days, but it takes 2 days to go through.
government,
Yeah.
red tape.
Well, not us. It takes the computer that long to tell that street light you need to lower yourself. So I don't know
I give
why.
it a few days.
Yeah, so, but if you find some that are really glaring, come tell us.
Okay.
We'll be happy to work with you. Thanks.
All right, yeah, I will. I think I know.
Well, thank you. We're glad you made it to this
you,
month.
Beth.
So thank you. Great conversation and some good action items. All right, old business. Motion to approve, would I hear? Oh, yeah, come on.
Lisa Kearns, West Biddle Street. I saw a more in-depth version of that at the Sustainability Committee meeting, and a lot of eye-opening stuff there, particularly with the glare and the person. We tend to think more light equals safer, but it doesn't, as demonstrated by that. And a lot of the questions that you just raised, the sustainability folks talked about too, and same thing with the lights that you talked about, Bernie. Most people don't know that little protrusion at the top of that is the control that will turn that light down via the EPAD. And it's one of the things I've heard residents complain about is, I got these really bright lights. So although we can't control the county stuff at this point, we do have all our street lights, our park lights and things like that perhaps we can turn down a little bit. I think that was everything. Yeah, no, I think it's really good potential. And they did talk about too, replacing the lights, because we did just do them all. And then it's like a 7-year life, but they did talk about making sure Will Williams, that what they ordered was indeed the warmer light. So heading in the right direction.
Was not an easy purchase because the lighting guy that we buy things from wasn't familiar with dark skies, and it was a struggle until we got to where we needed. And the city of Philadelphia has actually lowered most of their streetlights in Philadelphia and changing to that 2200
Yeah.
City of Philadelphia, think about that. And they were actually able to tell us exactly where to go buy those lights. And because Carol and Camille wouldn't leave me alone until I figured out where the heck to get those damn lights. But it's wonderful down there now. You
Yeah.
can actually see the fireflies and you don't lose any illumination.
Exactly.
You don't lose
It's still
any illumina-
safe.
Yeah, it's still
Yeah.
safe. And you can see the fireflies in the park.
Yeah.
So,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not too bad, that city of Philadelphia. All right, let's move on to old business. Motion to approve Smart Growth Committee minutes from April 2025. Everybody good? Any comments from anyone here? No, we're good? Okay. All right, on to new business, HARB applications. East, 39 East Gay Street, protective barrier for curbside cafe seating.
So this is a recommendation to approve from HARB for the Westchester Seafood Kitchen and Hotel Indigo for a railing for the cafe permit. There are representatives here if you guys do have any questions about it. I didn't see any, I mean, HARB approved, so it's up to you. They're very nice. Okay. Do you guys want to, would you like to discuss it at all or show it? Of course, yeah.
Good evening. My name is Paul Paget. I'm the attorney representing the applicant tonight. We made a very comprehensive presentation to the HARB board, which was warmly received. We're grateful for that. I have my architect here. We're happy. We could go from the beginning to end if you'd like, or if you have any questions, we're happy to answer at your pleasure.
I'd like to see the pictures,
The photographs.
photographs, yeah.
Okay.
In Delco, we call them pictures.
I'm
Chester County, we call them photographs.
not sure I understand.
I'd like to see your photographs, yeah.
Which photographs, sir?
So what you're proposing and where,
Okay.
yeah.
Sure. Well, I have the architect here, but in short, we're proposing a Rhode Island style railing
Right,
to be installed, and I have the full plan I can show you. 12 inches off of the curb, which is a requirement by PennDOT and the borough. Our application, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I don't think ever had a fully compliant application ever. This is the first time I've done it. So I'm pleased to say that, of course.
you're in the Hall of Fame.
Play the lottery.
You strike out 7 out of 10 times and you're there, right?
There you go.
Would you like to see the plan? I have the architect. We can show you the layout.
You're here.
Okay, sure.
You spent the money to come, so you, well,
They were
You have a
attached.
copy of it?
yeah.
You
I'd
should
love
have
to.
all seen it.
Yeah, I just don't know where it's going.
I think there's the large plan,
Yes.
the layout.
It's going in front and down Walnut Street. It's going on Gay Street and down Walnut Street.
Well, that's just an example of what the railing would look like. We've got renderings here.
Sure.
All I need, excuse me, all I need to see is the pictures.
All right.
That's all I want to see is the pictures.
Do you want to use this? Sorry. I'll let you.
I got it.
I gotta get back.
Hi, I'm Brianna Hampton. I'm the designer of the restaurant and cafe seating. So I don't know if you want to zoom out up on the computer so everyone can see. Yes. So overall, we have 32 tables, 64 seats. We have tables lined up adjacent to the building, and then also curbside where the railing is going to go. In between the curbside, we have umbrellas, the cantilever umbrellas. We have on the lower left-hand side a clear sight triangle for cars passing by to be able to see and pass through. And we did include some planters. We do not know the type of plant yet, but some type of tall tree. We have 54-inch clearance of walkway space, 2 trash cans for the patrons, and each table will be 30 by 30 inches, which meets the requirement for the square footage. And that pretty much sums up the plan, if you want to see the pretty pictures.
Is not indicative of the actual sidewalk on Walnut Street. That's not the correct lamp post unless you're putting another lamp in there.
The lamp post is just a placeholder. It is not the exact
Right.
that's
It's
there.
not it's not positioned exactly where it is on the street either. That's,
Because Tim's going to have to approve that lamppost,
Yeah.
just so you know.
yeah.
So everything on the rendering is an exact copy of the floor plan where we have it laid out. We did dimension on site for the proper clearances, for the walkways, and for the railings. The trees are positioned here, the existing trees. These are existing grates. We are not changing anything to the patio. This is existing pavers. The only thing we are adding is the tables, umbrellas, and the planters. So.
Good.
Sharp.
Yeah.
Now I just got to be able to get a reservation there.
The
It's very
reservation-
busy.
yeah,
It's
very good.
doing
Food-
great. Yeah.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you require of us at this time?
No, not
All
for
right.
me. No.
Any
Thank you.
questions from anyone in attendance? Were you guys able to see the pictures?
Ramsey, since they're showing the pictures like Vanna White right now, how are we standing with the dedication signs that attached to the streetlights? Major. Okay. Okay. What we're going to, the Borough Council is going to dedicate that Walnut Street side to Mr. Stan Zukin as a commemorative walkway. Because he was so instrumental in, working with the borough over a lot of years.
Understood.
That's why I know that lamp post is not the right lamp post, because I've been there measuring all the lamp posts, and there's 3 or 4 of them in that row, plus some trees in the ground. So,
It's a rendering.
yeah.
Rendering. And not our light post either.
See,
so-
now you're really throwing me. Rendering, don't go still pictures, photos and renderings. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, so we're good?
Yeah.
All right, 3-0.
I just couldn't figure out how they were going to fit around all those.
It looks like they've got a good
Yep.
plan there. So with that, we'll move on to discuss future revisions to cafe permits, dining platforms and parking areas, and use of the street during Gay Street closure.
Yes, so as you know, we approved the updated policy, I think last month, but I thought while this is still fresh in our minds, and we don't have to get into the weeds tonight, but I did put some notes on the existing ordinance where I think, Dana and I have been dealing with a lot of phone calls regarding participation during the Gay Street closure. And, we do have the policy, but right now, the only teeth are if you have a cafe permit, and there are real retail stores that participate. So we want to consider for the future how retail stores participate. Is there a Gay Street closure permit so that we have some sort of enforcement action if people are, pushing vehicles all the way across the street? That's one of the issues that's coming up. And, I think in the past, BID was handling a lot of this sort of internally, but they don't have enforcement opportunities like we do. So we want to consider the Gay Street closure. There should be, right now, you can apply for, it's one type of permit. So it's a cafe permit, but there's also an on-street dining platform. And I think that those should be clearly delineated for permitting purposes. And then with the on-street dining platforms, we have a lot of existing grandfathered properties that are maybe going in front of other properties nearby, or there are site distance issues that we hadn't paid attention to. So I think we want to consider how we are approving these permits, what the application period looks like. I know there were talks of, because I think it's 2 per block, and do we want to still continue with that? So there's many things that we should be looking at. So just kind of wanted to start the conversation, give some feedback from what we're looking at, and then consider better practices so that we have something by the end of this year, so that that way going into 2026, the applicants can come to us, we can review them properly, vet everything the right way, and kind of clean up some of the issues that we have, because we do want to be equitable and fair for our enforcement across the board. And then also we should probably consider how we deal with PennDOT streets in here as well, just to reference that if that permit ever gets dealt with at PennDOT, like how we want to manage that internally as well.
So what's your plan to, like, are you going to come back next month with like a draft of what you think it should look like and have us weigh? I know you've sent us stuff, but I don't think that's updated. I think that's just the consolidated, right?
So the policy is, that is the policy that it was basically consolidated. It's very confusing because it references pieces of the ordinance and then it's made up policy, which I think it should be very clear. The ordinance is one thing. It probably doesn't have to be as wordy as it is, because we can reflect to the policy, and the policy we can update as we need to. So I wanted to see if anybody had feedback, if you just want me to work on it. I think Dana could be a big help, Wendy as well. We could work with Kristen on updating the ordinance for a draft if you want to do it that way, and then kind of cleaning up the policy. You want to start there?
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other question is just the map. Eagle Eye Nicole noticed I did forget Walnut Street on the map. So I did not have, I skipped that by accident, but there's Cafe 1 and Cafe 2, which have 2 different requirements as far as you can't have paper plates and whatnot, I think in Cafe 1, and then the hours of operation are different. I know that from what I've heard, that has not been enforced properly. So do we want to continue with that? Do you want to enhance the areas? Do you want that's another conversation as well. Or leave as is. I don't think there's anywhere else you need to add, but I don't know, do you need 2 cafe districts since it's not been enforced, or can we just have a cafe
I
district?
think that's my opinion, like that, just have a cafe, like, yeah, like why penalize somebody who's not on a certain street, right? I mean,
Right.
actually, I think about like dining around, sometimes the fun places to go are not necessarily right in the center of town. And
Yeah.
so why should we penalize people that have businesses that are peppered around?
And the hours do seem fairly early to me anyway. I mean, I think it's 10 versus midnight. And I think the intention was to protect the areas that touch residential areas. But I will say, like, I don't think we've ever had feedback of a concern because they're quiet places anyway. So consolidate to one area.
Yeah, let's try it
Okay.
that way.
Cool. Thank you.
Ramsey, I can tell you, we've only been open now 2 weeks for the closure.
Mhm.
And the people directly across the street from the Westchester Seafood are encroaching like they've done in the past.
Mhm.
There's actually a line going down the middle of the street.
Mhm.
They're not paying attention to that line. They need to pay attention to that. The problem is we don't have anybody at nighttime.
Right.
It's pushing them back over. And-
I do think Corday came out. I'm not sure if he spoke to them, but there was also another restaurant
Okay.
that was going across the street. But that is something else to consider because not to interrupt you, but the
Yeah.
other restaurant across the street doesn't have anything commercial as well.
Right.
So it's, we want to figure out how to prevent that while also maybe preserving that space in case Keith wants to put something in
And
there.
the other, it's not an issue, but it detracts actually from the new hotel, I think, is when one of the restaurateurs decides to put up a circus tent in the middle of the street, and it's blue.
Mhm.
And it sits on the corner of Walnut Street. And that's encroaching as well and blocking the view of what's going on in the street. So it's just a thought,
Yeah.
we should pay attention to, the fire department is very emphatic, about that kind of stuff. So,
Yep, yep. I know those
Yeah.
are fire safety implications, so maybe we consider not allowing the use of tents?
but they use that because of inclement weather,
Sure.
but it seems to be aggressive.
Okay.
In my world, I mean, everybody else has little square tents that you use for sporting events and stuff like that. And this is pretty much like a circus tent. And so
Okay.
it's
I have some ideas for
just a
that.
thought, if nobody else is complaining about it and I just feel like complaining about it, it's a different story. But
Yeah.
to me, it's an eyesore.
I
So,
want to make sure because I think there is a benefit to even if it's like tonight where it's kind of drizzly, but you can still sit outside because it's warm enough and stuff. So we just have to balance how we monitor those types of things because I think there still could be a benefit to the community.
like you're saying there, just the presentation that we just got of the beautiful tents or canopies that the new hotel's putting in, okay, versus a circus tent. So.
Well, I
it's-
think maybe there should be requirements, right?
Yep.
And we have had requests for a tent for a special event, right? So we allow them, but there are parameters that have to be met and maintained, right, for them to be put up.
Yeah, and I think we could just clarify that in here and along with, I know Paul will have comments on the fire safety issues as well. That is a big one. So I think we should just add tent standards and requirements. So that way it's maybe more cohesive as well,
And I think the mayor was raising her hand. Bill, that was what I was pointing to, that take a mic to the mayor. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I think that the tent, it does not look like a circus tent as you characterize it, in my estimation. It is a blue tent. It's not a striped tent. One thinks of striped tents as circus
I
tents.
said it was blue.
Yes, you did.
I did say it was blue.
You are not colorblind. So it is a blue tent. I don't think it in any way looks like a circus tent, simply a square tent up. And having sat underneath that tent a few times, I've been happy for it once or twice. And I also like the way they've taken potted plants and kind of made their own outdoor area. So they've made some, if they've been aggressive, I think they've been aggressive about making their area look a little more beautiful than some of these areas, because some of them just plop the table and chairs in the middle of the street, and it looks kind of dreary, really, particularly when it's rainy or when it's hot out and no one else is out, because there is no tent to cover or shade them. So I think there is a real value into making sure that if they do put up a tent, that they all look alike, maybe all have the same type of sizing tent, or the white tents or the blue tents, or whatever you go with, that there should be some sort of standardization so that the whole street doesn't look like a circus parkway, if you will. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. It does not look like a circus tent.
So not everybody needs a striped tent. We don't want.
No.
Red
Like,
and
for example, the
white
next door
striped tent.
neighbor to that blue circus tent, okay, it's
Okay,
they're
Donald.
angled. They're angled. They have the angle shade ones, which look very classy, and it just looks like you're sitting in a cafeteria in the middle, under the blue tent. So, but that's just me. It's,
It's a good
there's no
trim.
I don't think we have any standards for it.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a free for all at this point, and some people have done different things.
And the only thing I want to say is we're in our what, fifth year? Fifth year? It shouldn't be a free for all.
Right.
Now, we need to have some really set guidelines and beautification encouragement too, because right now we're not in COVID now, and we need to level up.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree.
I'm glad everybody came to see my side. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Don't be giving me that stink eye.
Might be a circus tent if you're under it.
I like your tie. We have everybody do borough colors that are blue and yellow. There we go.
See, there you go. They were being patriotic for the town. See, Colin, they have good food too, so.
Okay, what other feedback would you like for tonight, Ramsey, on this one?
This is a good starting point. I think, based on the requests that we've had, I have some ideas that I could just propose and then we can go from there. Just parse it out, not slowly. I don't want to go too slow, but the goal, I would like this to be like enforceable by December. So hopefully get a draft by the fall so we can have a hearing, and it's the drop dead date would be the end of the year. So that way we go into 2026 ready to go. That's if we take our time.
Any feedback from the community on potentially things that could be improved with the cafe district? Okay,
Go.
all right, thank you.
Okay. Yep.
All right, take 2. Discuss Westchester University campus plan review issues and timing. I know we talked a little bit about this in public safety, but
We
you can go
did, and
again.
I'm also going to talk about it again next week with my borough manager's report, because the theme of that report is going to be the planning efforts that are going on right now, parks, recreation open space plan, Westchester University master plan, and the business improvement district's 5-year update. So, roughly speaking, we're starting the review right now at Planning Commission next week and the week following. There will be recommendations. We'll have conversations at Smart Growth and work session next month to provide just some preliminary feedback to the university that we pledged we would do by June. And we have till August to convene the conditional use hearing.
Okay, no questions here? Any questions? I think all of you out there have also heard it twice, so we're good. All right, any other business? All right, no other business, so we will adjourn this meeting at 7:43 PM. Thank you.